Let the kids sort it out themselves. Fine. She asked for it. I live in a Dutch town with a university. A few years ago, my girlfriend's cousin enrolled there as a foreign student. My girlfriend is Japanese, and her family father, mother, sister, and herself moved to the Netherlands many years ago. The cousin was living in Japan when she applied to the university. She was accepted and now lives in a student dormitory. She's doing very well in her studies, has good grades, and is confidently working toward her degree. Partly because of that, her family from Japan decided to spend their vacation in the Netherlands this year to relax and have a family reunion. The story happened during their visit. My girlfriend's parents, the cousin's parents, and another family met at a restaurant in my town. With them were two young girls, sisters. I thought they were about 8 or 9, but later my girlfriend said they were actually 11 or 12. They just looked younger, possibly because of their school uniforms. At least that was my impression. I'm not very good at guessing kids' ages. The idea was to spend time together as a family. My girlfriend was asked to watch the two younger kids for a couple of hours. My girlfriend and I are both in our 40s. Her cousin is a student in her 20s, and the girls, as mentioned, were around 10. My girlfriend didn't mind and asked if I wanted to come along too. The cousin agreed as well. We'd spent time together before, and it mostly came down to entertaining the kids. For context, the two younger girls mostly speak only Japanese. They understand some English and can say a few things, but mainly use Japanese. My girlfriend's cousin speaks Japanese and English and has also learned Dutch quite well. She's only been in the country a couple of years, and her language level is impressive. My girlfriend speaks Japanese, English, and Dutch. I speak Dutch and English. And over the years I've picked up some Japanese. So, I can often catch the meaning if people don't speak too fast or too complex. In the end, all our communication was in English and Japanese. We were walking around the city with the kids, and everything interested them. When we passed a playground, it immediately caught their attention. The three of us decided to sit on a bench and let the kids have fun. There was a lot there, an inflatable castle, swings, a sandbox for toddlers. Plenty to do. The girls wanted to go into the castle. My girlfriend allowed it, but only if they used the entrance and exit on our side, so we could keep an eye on them. The three of us talked while watching the castle. About 15 minutes later, I noticed them near the exit. There was another small girl between them. I'm not sure, but she looked about 8. It was hard to tell what was happening, but I saw her pointing toward the sandbox, and the three of them headed there. Before I could say anything, a young woman approached us and asked in Dutch if we had seen a little girl. The coincidence felt suspicious, so I asked, "Is she wearing a pink dress?" The woman's face lit up when I said the girl seemed to be with my girlfriend's younger cousins, and I pointed toward the sandbox. When we looked, we saw an older boy next to the girls. I'm bad at guessing ages, but he was clearly bigger and was bothering them. The little girl was crying. One cousin was comforting her, while the other kept the boy at a distance. We all walked over just as the boy pushed one cousin and tried to grab the girl in the pink dress. But the other cousin stopped him. That's when we arrived. The woman who was with us scolded the boy and told him to stop harassing the little girl. But he didn't seem impressed at all. The next moment, his mother, I assume, rushed over yelling. An argument started, mostly between the mother of the girl in the pink dress and the bully's mother. They argued for quite a while, but it was obvious that, according to the boy's mother, her son had done nothing wrong by picking on a girl half his size. And this wonderful mother even dared to accuse the other woman of raising such a weak, small excuse for a child. Then the bully's mom said, "Kids are kids. Let them deal with their own problems." After that, she grabbed her son and left. The girl's mother was about to leave too, but by then the little girl had completely calmed down and was having a great time with the two cousins. My girlfriend asked the girl's mother not to leave, since the kids were having so much fun together. Then she added, "Isn't it amazing? The kids don't even speak the same language, but they understand each other perfectly and are having a great time." The woman agreed. And then my girlfriend turned to her cousins and spoke to them in Japanese. 6:14. Her tone sounded very serious, and she even looked at the girls a bit strictly. Both cousins nodded and clearly answered, "Hi," meaning yes, understood. I even thought I noticed a slight bow, though I'm not sure. We all sat down on a nearby bench, and for about 5 minutes nothing happened. We were just chatting. Then the bully came back. The little girl's mother wanted to stand up, but my girlfriend stopped her and said there was nothing to worry about. Her child was completely safe. Just watch. Trust me. The woman was clearly nervous but stayed seated. That's when I noticed the cousins' posture and behavior had completely changed. They looked much more confident and calm. The boy started acting up again. One of the cousins stood up, pointed at him, and shouted something in Japanese. He tried to push her again, but this time she was faster. She jumped aside, made some kind of movement with her leg, and kicked him hard. The next moment, he was face down in the sand, literally. His angry face was covered in sand. This time he became aggressive and tried to punch her. Well, he tried. She dodged, grabbed his arm, twisted it, and suddenly the boy was screaming in pain with his arm pinned behind his back. The second cousin stood up as well, patted the little girl on the head, made one quick move, and the boy was on the ground again. This time both cousins acted together, hard. When he looked up, one of them made a threatening gesture, like she was about to kick him, even though she didn't move. It was obvious she just wanted to scare him. My girlfriend nudged me with her elbow, grinning widely, and said, "Doesn't this deserve a self-control point? Don't you agree?" It was clear she was enjoying every second. The boy apparently wasn't completely stupid and ran off. One of the cousins immediately turned back to the little girl, who was still having a great time and didn't seem upset at all by the bully. "What the hell was that?" the girl's mother asked. My girlfriend explained that her cousins attend self-defense classes, the same ones she and her sister once went to, and that she decided to use her authority and gave them permission to defend themselves, of course without going too far. The woman wanted to know more about these classes, but unfortunately my girlfriend said the school was located in the suburbs of Tokyo, so her daughter wouldn't be able to attend. We talked calmly for another 10 minutes when suddenly the bully's mother rushed back to us again, this time with a police officer in tow. He wasn't exactly a full police officer, more like an assistant, without full training or weapons. They usually handle fines and minor issues. He said he'd received a complaint that some people had assaulted a child. The little girl's mother immediately snapped back, "Didn't you say kids should deal with their own problems?" And here's the funny part. Turns out the whole scene hadn't gone unnoticed. Before we could even say anything, an elderly woman walked up. "I saw everything," she said. Pointing at the bully's mother, she added that her brat had been harassing the girl in the pink dress, and that these two wonderful girls stepped in to protect her. A moment later, another man approached us as well. "Officer, that bully got exactly what he deserved. He started it, and the girls were just defending themselves." The officer listened to all the statements and eventually issued a fine to the bully's mother. I assume it was for disturbing public order, but I don't know the exact details. By that point, we had already decided to leave and went our separate ways. On the way back to the hotel restaurant, the cousins told us the full story, and I learned a few new details myself. While they were in the inflatable castle, they saw the boy harassing the girl in the pink dress and immediately decided it wasn't right, especially since he was almost twice her size. He pulled her hair while she was already crying, and that really made the cousins angry. But all they actually did at first was pull the boy away from the girl. One cousin distracted him, stopping him from grabbing her hair again and even teasing him a little. Meanwhile, the other cousin comforted the little girl and led her toward the exit, the exact one we had agreed on earlier. That's why the girl's mother didn't see her leave and started to panic. The second cousin managed to break away from the boy in the crowd, at least at first, and joined her sister at the exit. I asked my girlfriend why they didn't deal with it immediately. She replied that they're not allowed to. The first rule of self-defense, apparently, is always leave if you can, and the cousins are already at a level where using those techniques outside the school is strictly forbidden, unless there's a real threat or they receive direct permission from a senior instructor from the same school. My girlfriend said she would write a report about the incident so the cousins could take her letter with them. She really wasn't joking about the self-control points. That was exactly what she planned to write in the report. And honestly, it's just classic hypocrisy. Let the kids handle it themselves until things suddenly don't go the way you want. Music. Second story. My ex tried to sue me and completely failed. I have a 5-year-old daughter with my ex-wife. We split up about 12 years ago. Our marriage had its ups and downs. We never really fought or screamed at each other, but we often defended our opinions emotionally and still always found common ground. That's why it shocked me when she said she wanted a divorce. I cried for a couple of days, then went fishing, and after that started planning how to sort everything out. Since neither of us had enough income at the time to keep the car and the house, we agreed that I would handle selling the car, and she would find a realtor to start selling our house. In the end, I had to do everything myself. Either way, we had more debt than money. She tried to dump all the debt on me and start fresh herself. I didn't allow it and made sure that all property and every debt were split evenly. We agreed that our daughter would live with both of us equally, because she has the right to have two parents. We promised each other to behave like adults. That didn't last long. We also agreed that since our salaries were roughly the same, neither of us would pay child support. We also agreed that she would buy most of the clothes and other things for the child, since she would receive child benefits. In Finland, the government pays about €100 per month to help with raising children. After our breakup, she started ordering new furniture even before she had found an apartment. And she didn't have the money for it. 2 weeks later she moved out, and another week after that I learned from my daughter that she had a new man. I didn't really care. I was only slightly surprised. She often took sick leave at work, usually for made-up reasons. When her boss confronted her, she didn't change her behavior and simply quit. She enrolled in school and then dropped out again 2 months later. That's when she started demanding child support from me. We brought in a specialist, and it was decided that I still wouldn't pay her, since she had voluntarily given up her income. As a gesture of goodwill, I offered to pay for our daughter's insurance. I thought that closed the issue, but a few months after our separation, she got pregnant by her new man. After our divorce officially took effect, there is a 6-month period to reconsider before a judge finalizes it. During that time, she married this man. All of this only fueled her increasing demands for money. So now you understand the kind of person I'm dealing with. Last fall, my ex once again demanded money for child support. She had gone back to work, and I clearly understood that she was using our daughter as an excuse, because she was jealous of my ability to manage finances. Even with the same income, I could afford restaurants and other things. I told her that if she truly needed child support for a valid reason, I would help. But the expenses had to be calculated properly to understand what amount was actually necessary. Instead, she demanded €200 per month and insisted that she alone would fully control all spending related to our daughter. She had no real reasons beyond her need to control everything. She had always been someone who needed the last word. Along with the demand, she threatened to take me to court if I didn't pay. I honestly laughed until I received a message from her lawyer. After that, I told my ex that from now on I would only discuss this matter through attorneys and started looking for one myself. Over the next couple of months, things only got worse for her. When I received the court papers, it turned out the claim was based on false information. She and her lawyer hadn't even asked about my actual income and expenses before filing, and they listed my income as much higher than it really was. They also underestimated my expenses. At that point, I messaged my ex and asked if she was sure she didn't want to settle peacefully. She refused. Fine. I decided to switch to malicious compliance and stop pushing for anything. Once both sides, together with the lawyers, calculated all income and expenses, my lawyer and I received confirmation that she had more than enough money to support the child. In fact, it turned out she had more money than I did, after monthly income minus housing, medicine, and other costs. I burst out laughing at the absurdity of her claim. Even more so when she tried to turn everything in her favor by sending fake evidence to us and the judge, which we exposed immediately. A couple of days later, my lawyer called me. She had received a call from my ex's attorney. He realized she was lying and that the whole case was built on lies, and he wanted to negotiate a settlement. It looked like my malicious compliance wouldn't happen until my lawyer received another message saying that, for some reason, they had changed their minds and no longer wanted to settle. Fine. The game continued. We went to court. The judge looked annoyed but remained calm. He asked my ex's lawyer about their demands. The lawyer began first. I'd like to give some background, but the judge interrupted him and told him to simply state the demands. After a few seconds of silence, the lawyer said, "There are no demands." The judge was both shocked and furious. "Then why are you here?" My lawyer replied with something like, "That's exactly what we'd like to know." The judge then asked my ex's lawyer again, "So you were trying to reach a settlement?" The lawyer sheepishly admitted that my ex had refused to agree to one. They were humiliated. It was magnificent, like some kind of divine retribution catching up with my ex. The judge sent us to a negotiation room for 20 minutes and ordered us to return with a settlement. Since she had more money, we agreed that she would pay for extracurricular activities, insurance, and other expenses for the child to compensate for the difference. The judge approved it, and I left the courtroom in a great mood, while my ex was torn between anger and shame. A couple of weeks ago, my ex once again demanded a change to the custody schedule. I refused, saying we already had an agreement. She threatened to take me to court again. I simply reminded her how her last attempt ended and asked if she was sure she wanted to repeat it. She got angry, and I ignored her. About a week ago, she sent me a message saying she had a fight with her husband. The police were called because she attacked him, and now she wants a divorce. Since children were present, including my daughter, the police were required to notify Child Protective Services. In the end, her life completely fell apart. To children by different fathers, to divorces before 30, massive debt and expenses. And it looks like my daughter will now spend most of her time with me, which is exactly what she's wanted for the past couple of years. Third story. I endured a manipulative mother my whole life, but now I'm done. After my second year of college, I dropped out and moved back in with my parents. That meant sharing a house again with my mother, who was and still is an emotionally abusive narcissist and an alcoholic. Without going into too many dramatic details, living with her was awful. Her drunk screaming around 2 in the morning was especially unbearable, making it impossible to keep a normal schedule. The reason I dropped out of college was severe depression, and my mother only made it worse. I got a job to start saving money, and she did everything she could to make my life harder. As I mentioned, her nighttime screaming made it impossible to sleep, since I had to wake up at 6. She tried to make me quit my job, saying it took too much out of me and that I needed rest in my condition. She tried to raise my rent when she realized I was saving money, and similar things. I was in the process of buying her car, and sometimes she would just take my money to pay for something related to the car without asking, saying, "Well, it's going to be your car anyway." She did everything to keep me sad, dependent, and emotionally tied to her. When I objected, she reminded me that I was still financially dependent on her, so everything would be her way, or I could get out. At some point, I started dating a guy. I didn't have many friends or hobbies, so I thought dating would be a good way to meet new people and broaden my horizons. I met a very kind, amazing guy who became my boyfriend. He introduced me to swing and blues dancing, and to an entire community of dancers. Instead of just working, coming home, and dealing with my mom, I could now go out, have fun with my boyfriend and the dancers. Social activity and exercise combined. My boyfriend knew about my problems at home and did everything he could to support me. He even helped me plan a budget so I could save up faster and escape. It's worth mentioning that my boyfriend at the time was very good with finances and owned his own business. He had a well-paying job. Even though he didn't shower me with gifts, he consistently paid for dinners, dance nights, and things like that. He also gave me genuinely solid advice. This will matter later. By that point, a lot of good things had appeared in my life. I was no longer stressed about school and had actually learned to manage my depression. Of course, my mother became suspicious of my boyfriend and the dance community. If we were just dancing, how was I coming home after midnight? My boyfriend worried that my mother didn't trust him, so he sent her a message like, "Hello, author's mom. I'm so, and I'd like to invite you to join us for a dance lesson so we can get to know each other better." I thought it was very sweet. My mom agreed until the last moment, when she backed out and tried to make me stay home with her. She did this often, so I said, "No, you can't cancel this. I'm going dancing with my boyfriend anyway." Apparently, that was the wrong thing to say. Without going into all the details, it turned into a full hour of screaming, with me being called disrespectful and ungrateful. I grabbed my car keys to leave, but she snatched them back and said I was no longer allowed to use the car. I had already paid her over $1,000 for it, but the paperwork was in her name, so I knew I was trapped. I also knew that if I tried to grab the keys and leave, she would actually call the cops. I should mention that my father was home the entire time, but he's such a doormat that he was probably just watching baseball with the volume turned up so he wouldn't hear us. My boyfriend was texting me the whole time, not understanding why I was so late. He and my mom had been expected at the dance studio an hour earlier, and now he was getting nervous. When I went into another room, I briefly explained the situation to him. He replied, "If you pack your things, I can come get you right now. You don't have to stay with her if you don't want to." No one had ever offered me an escape like that before. I hadn't even thought about moving in with him. We'd only been dating for 4 months. But once he offered, nothing else mattered. I could hear my mom screaming in the other room, and suddenly my worldview shifted. I went back to talk to her, and for the 5th or 6th time that evening, she said something like, "If you don't want to follow my rules, then get out of my house." This time, I said, "Okay." She actually stopped screaming, probably because she didn't expect that answer. I calmly went upstairs to my room and locked the door. I texted my boyfriend, "Let's do this." Outside, I could hear my mom screaming at the top of her lungs. I started packing. It turned out my entire life fit into 3 suitcases, and packing took about an hour. My boyfriend arrived in my neighborhood while I was still packing, so we tried to time everything so I could leave with minimal trouble. When my mom's screaming finally stopped, I took the suitcases and calmly walked out to his car. That's when my father suddenly decided to intervene, saying, "Arthur, this is a bad idea. You know how your mom will react. She won't like this." As I was leaving, My mom saw me with the suitcases and screamed, "What are you doing? I'm kicking you out of my house." And fortunately, that's exactly how my boyfriend met my parents. Mom screaming, Dad standing there with his arms crossed, and me trying my best to stay calm until the suitcases were in the car. My boyfriend awkwardly nodded at my dad like, "Hey man, enjoy your screaming wife." And we drove away. I lived with my boyfriend for about 3 months, then moved into my own place. My mom continued acting crazy, and eventually both my boyfriend and I had to file restraining orders against her. The judge granted both. The last time I saw my parents was in the courtroom. My boyfriend and I broke up a few months after things settled down. He was wonderful, but we weren't compatible long term. The stress from my family also took a heavy toll on our relationship. But we're still friends, and he still gives me financial advice over coffee. 4 years have passed since then. My mom is very, very, very far away from me now. I thought you might enjoy my story of freedom. I hope you did. If you did, please like this video and leave a comment in support. I'd also be curious which story you liked the most in this video. And be sure to check out our other videos right here. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Good luck!